Perfect. All right, we're recording. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining me here today for my second infield talk. I think we got a pretty good lineup. Before we get started, my name is Tyler Packanik. I'm Director of Player Personnel at Stetson University. Each one of you guys, if you mind introducing yourselves and just, whatever your title or whatever program that you're with. Starting with you, Szink.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Szink, originally from Canton, Ohio. I used to be the assistant director of baseball operations up at Bo Jackson's Elite Sports in Columbus. Currently working through an internship, a minor league affiliate internship with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes, Wade.
Wade Satzinger. I'm the infield coordinator at Inspiration Academy, and then I'm also the postgraduate program head coach.
Awesome. And Chris?
Chris Cates, assistant at University of Tampa. Work with the infielders, along with a little bit of outfield, and then most of the base running and bunting.
Awesome. Well, today I think we're going to spend most of our time talking middle infielders. This is a topic dear to my heart because I played middle infield, and I enjoyed watching middle infielders. So, and being able to work with them is a joy. So that being said, I want to get right into it. If you guys wouldn't mind, just take me through, how you teach the middle infielders their like pre-pitch routine. What I mean by that could be prep step, maybe the mentality before the pitch is thrown, maybe even get into the shifting too. So I'll let you start that one off, Wade, whatever you got.
For us at Inspiration Academy, I'm at a little bit different level than all of you guys. Especially at the post-grad level, it's these guys that are done with their high school career, didn't get the recruiting options they want. They're missing a tool or two, and they're trying to develop and get the college looks that they didn't quite get in high school. So these guys come in. I got guys that are D1 type of level guys and guys that are just trying to find any type of level to play at. So I got a wide range of guys and talent to kind of work with. Mm-hmm. From a pre-pitch routine standpoint, I guess something a little besides like the prep step and everything like that. Our mentality is going to be, we can't be afraid to fail. We're going to attack baseballs, and it's going to be kind of a so what mentality, as in we boot a ball, it's going to happen, but I'm going to be ready to go for the next one. Once I get punched in the mouth, I'm going to have a plan to get onto the next pitch. Pitcher struggling on the mound, especially our middle infield guys, goes for all infield, but all middle infield guys, we want that ball hit to us when that pitcher's struggling. We want that ball hit at us so we can get us out of the inning and get back to the dugout and be able to hit. I like to teach a lot of breathing stuff in between pitches, getting these guys being able to be locked in from pitch to pitch. Know when, okay, I can take a step back, breathe, can kind of let my mind wander for that 2 or 3, 4 seconds, and then I got to be locked back in. So that's kind of, for us, a little of the pre-pitch, and then obviously that leading into prep step. Our prep step, we just want both feet going to be up and down as the ball crosses. I think that's pretty universal for everyone there. As for shifting, we don't have a lot of data or anything like that, anything drastic shifts, but from the data I gather through practices and all that stuff, let's shift a little bit to our strength. If the guy's really great in the forehand, let's take 1 or 2 more steps in the hole, try to create that more one-hand, 2-lane action up the middle, and then vice versa. If the guy's got a really good backhand, strong arm, weak arm, if we're going to play in a few more steps, or we're going to play a little bit more deep. So that's kind of how we go about the shifting for us.
Sure. I think the one thing that I wrote down was you mentioned don't be afraid to fail, right? I think the one stat we all look at for infielders is fielding percentage, right? And typically the middle guys' fielding percentage isn't as high as maybe the corners, right? and when middle infielders are looking at that stuff, might get a little discouraged. But it's, hey, you're going to get more chances. You're going to get more opportunities. Plus, we need you. We need you to get to some balls that these corner guys can't get to. So you're probably going to make a few more errors, but we need you to make a lot more plays too, right?
Yeah.
So that was the one thing I wrote down. Chris, what do you got?
Just talking about the pre-pitch routine. For me, I've always taught guys differently, whether they're playing short or second, because I think to me it's more of a feel thing. Because when I played mainly short, but when I went over to second, at certain times I always kind of felt I was a little more relaxed, and I had more time. I felt second base at times was the easier position, so I always felt like my pre-pitch routine was different. So what I like to tell our guys is whatever their pre-pitch, their prep step, their walk-in, whatever you want to call it. I just want them to be in what I call an athletic, reactive position when the ball crosses the plate. I try to put in our guys' heads. If they're going to they're guarding a guy in basketball, they're going to be in an athletic kind of reactive position. If you're playing tennis, if you're playing football, and guys, getting ready to try to shake you, whatever the sport is, you're always in a position to react to wherever the opponent or the ball is going. So I try to put that in our guys' heads that when the ball crosses the zone, you need to be in that position. So once the ball's in hit and play, you're ready to react wherever it goes.
Would you talk about like glove and where your hands are, so to speak? Would you ever talk about that with your infielders?
Yeah, so I'm going to share a screen just to kind of show you how I had a shortstop at USF. His name was Kevin Merrill, and he came in as a second baseman and ended up moving to the outfield, and then came back in to be shortstop, and was a first-round shortstop and never really played shortstop before. But kind of, now if you look at the screen, kind of what I have here now, some people would say, well, he's flat-footed, but that's kind of the point where the ball's kind of getting ready to be struck and he's getting ready to move. So it's very, very minimal time that his heels actually hit the ground. But I like their hands out to the side, just like he kind of is right there. Just because, if you have your hand out front, the balls hit your left or right, or even a slow roller, the first thing your hands are going to do is go back to that position. So I always, just kind of tell my guys, hey, you're going to be in a reaction position, so that when the ball's hit, we don't know where it's going. We're going to anticipate, and we're going to, a lot of times move on where we think the ball is going. But at the end of the day, we can't predict, exactly where the ball is going to go. So that's kind of the position that I like to tell our guys to be in. And, just to show you guys kind of this, like with like a tennis serve, it should play here. It's kind of a little hop, and I encourage guys to have some kind of movement, but some guys aren't comfortable with it, and some guys, their timing is messed up when they try to do a little hop. So, like I said, at the end of the day, I just want them to be in a position where they can react to wherever the ball is going. It's going to put them in the best opportunity to make the play, whether that's walking in, hopping in, the Pedroia, a little exaggerated hop. I just I want the guys to be comfortable so that when the ball's being put in play, they're in a position of comfort that all they have to worry about is now catching the ball in front.
Szink?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. So one thing I like that Chris mentioned was having control and instead of being on your toes, feeling the ground. And that's actually one thing I've always talked about. I can't stand it when coaches say, hey, be on your toes, because you're not going to move as well on your toes. Your first movement's always going to be up on your toes, just like hitting. Like Chris said, we want to be in a really athletic stance. We want to be in a stance where we feel really comfortable. And that's like you and I have talked about before. I like to equate it to hitting. If you feel comfortable and you feel ready to move athletically and quick, then why not start that way, right? I mentioned balls, starting on the balls of your feet. I like saying, I think one of the guys we used to coach with, Tyler, used to say, like, sink into your hips. And I always kind of like that. Having your chest over your toes and hips over your heels. Those are kind of two visual things that I would tell young guys that are having trouble, that are maybe too upwards with their chest or too inwards with their hips. From a glove positioning standpoint, one of the cues that I always use is a big bowl of spaghetti. So if you're telling a fielder or a young kid, for example, how to hold his hands or where to put his hands, I always say, hey, imagine you're holding a big bowl of spaghetti, right? Your thumbs are going to be up, and your hands are just going to be outside or just outside of your hips. I think this allows for real good, quick, athletic movement if you have to move left or right. And then it also gives you some options here if you're a pre-field glove tap guy. From a shifting standpoint, Tyler, like you and I talked about the other day, I think one of the things as I got older that I really got good at was reading and understanding the catcher signs and reading what was coming from a pitch standpoint. If I knew an off-speed pitch was coming on a right-handed hitter and I'm the second baseman, I know I might have to move over towards the bag a little bit. I think that's just a mentality thing and really a baseball IQ thing.
I'm gonna share my screen here too. I had a little video. Can you guys see that of Avi?
Yep.
Awesome. So he gets that little hop in, nothing too big. My favorite player growing up was Dustin Pedroia. So Chris, going back to, I think you mentioned him. He had the exaggerated hop, right? When I first got thrown over to second base, I had that same struggle. I felt like, when I was going right, left, ready, there was like too much time. And I was like, man, I almost got stuck. So I needed something to kind of get me going. And, that's when I was like, man, I should just try this out. I'm just watching Pedroia all the time. And I did the hop and it felt amazing. I was like, man, this actually works. I feel like I get into a good position. Plus, I think it's a timing thing as well. I know from the hitting side of things, some coaches don't like a leg kick, but if it helps for timing, then why not do it, right? Some things that I jotted down, the athletic position to me is being able to move in any direction with equal effort. I think, Chris, you kind of hit on that. My college coach would always tell us, whether it was hitting or fielding in your pre-pitch, be in an athletic position, and that means being able to move in any direction with equal effort. From the middle infield standpoint, the hands, I always like to refer to the middle infield guys having their hands either knee high or above. Anything below the knees, you're not going to be able to run. You're going to have to move up first to be able to go in any direction. So I like to see either the gloves even with your knees or just above. Now, if we were talking corner guys, they have a little bit more wiggle room where they can start below their knees because the ball's going to get on them a little bit quicker. So moving on.
Hang on, Ty. Before we move on, one thing I did want to mention. I know we're not really talking too much about teaching infielders, but one thing that I wrote down as we were talking, if any infielders having trouble with understanding their pre-pitch routine, I think taking video and watching video is huge. I know for me, I always kind of thought my pre-pitch routine was like a step, and I'm good. But then when I took video of myself, I saw myself doing a step, and I was kind of a up and down type guy to get myself on the balls of my feet. So I think just understanding that, seeing that, understanding that, it's very beneficial to really just understand what you're doing. And if it's working, great. If it's not, then let's try and make a change mentally.
Now, when you mentioned video, is that just during games or batting practice?
I think it's anything. I think it could be during games, batting practice. I think it could be taking fungos. I think most guys are going to react to some sort of ball off a bat the same, whether it's fungo, practice, game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Now, I will say off the machine, I've seen guys kind of cheat that a little bit, and
Yeah.
that's something I think I had a conversation with Tucker and Dai about was, you know, I've seen it with our guys. When we start to move the machine, they start to take a step or two that way. So we have to be kind of strategic about it, you know, not moving the machine until like the last second and dropping the ball in because we're trying to still make it realistic. But yeah, you know, I love taking video of batting practice. You know, I think you get a ton of good information, but the biggest one is their pre-pitch. Are they on time? You know, have their feet landed before the ball was hit, right? I think that's one of the biggest things you can kind of take away from just recording BP. So the next thing I wanted to get into was approaching ground balls just in the different lanes. And specifically, what I wanted to talk about was, are you guys fans of taking direct angles to the ball? Or are you guys more, you know, get around it, get your momentum going towards first base, and then kind of elaborate on that? So, Chris, I'll let you start off with that one.
You know, for me, I might think differently than some people in terms of, you know, how I like to teach things, because I know that me as a player, it was all a comfort thing. If I was comfortable doing something, I was going to buy into it more. I was going to, you know, do it with more confidence and ultimately have better results. So, you know, you can teach guys to get around the baseball and work through it, you know, right to left. But there's some guys who you know, let's not to stereotype. If you compare, let's say, you know, with Szink being in the professional baseball, if you compare guys in GCL, for example, and you got a guy that just came over from the Dominican Republic, he's going to have typically a lot of flair, and he's going to get around the ball a lot just because that's the way, you know, typically that it's taught, you know, in the Dominican Republic, versus you might get, you know, a kid, say an American kid, for example, that maybe doesn't have as fluid movements as some Latin players, and he's very direct and straight to the ball. So I typically like to evaluate my players' athleticism, because I can tell you, you know, over the years I've had guys that could do, you know, everything at the middle infield position, and then I've had guys who were very stationary that were very limited in what they could do. You know, last year, you know, Tyler, you know, we played against each other, and we had Jordan Santos, who's a converted catcher, playing second base, because we had to get his bat in the lineup, and it wasn't the smoothest. It was, you know, robotic, and his moves were very stiff, but he led our team in fielding percentage just because he had good hands, he could catch the ball and make accurate throws. So I think, you know, for me, I just try to, you know, figure out what can my player do in terms of approach. Is he a guy that if he works through the baseball, he's not going to, you know, fumble his feet, or he's not going to end up fielding the ball, you know, a little bit off center behind him, where he has, you know, issues with ball security and getting the ball out cleanly. So if that makes sense, you know, that's kind of what I do in terms of my infielders that I get, you know, to where I like to evaluate what they can do first, and then I kind of, you know, work on their approach if there is even a need to fix it, or if there's any issues. I like to just try to, okay, almost like Brandon said too, with videoing, you know, them to see what they think they're doing, especially if they're having issues fielding the ball, and then show them what they're actually doing. Because a lot of times, you know, I'll be the first to admit, you know, when I played versus now, when I get out and take ground balls, I feel like I'm still as smooth, or if not smoother than my guys. But then, you know, I'll watch a video, it's like, man, like I'm getting old. Like you know, I used to have better feet than that, or, you know, I used to have better hands. So I think being able to evaluate what they can actually do versus what they think they can do kind of helps with how I like to have them approach the ball, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Szink, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton here. I definitely agree with Chris in regards to letting guys do what they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the lane or the directions you take are definitely going to be determined by the hops, the first hop. And this is all me. This is not something that I've heard or anything, just something that I've kind of seen or done myself. But the first hop and the speed of the ball. So what I read off the bat and the hop wise and velocity wise is going to kind of dictate if I have to take an angle, and then obviously knowing the runner too. So just as an example, I played a ton of second base. If I had a ball hit to my left that was hit pretty well, I might have to take a deeper route that way versus taking more of a direct route towards, straight left or towards first base. And then same thing with the ball up the middle. If I have a ball that's hit a little softer, I might have to take more of a route towards the shortstop. If it's hit a little bit harder and I can read it off that first hop, if it's got velo, if it doesn't have velo, maybe it's up in the air a little bit longer, then I'm going to take a wider route towards the center fielder and try and make that play. What I've always kind of taught from a backhand and a forehand, mechanics wise, forehand, we want to try and plant that or try and get that right foot there and then work in front of that right foot get that left foot there if we're doing forehand. Work there as much as possible with that left foot and in front of that left foot. And then from a backhand, the right foot, I think the right foot's the most important there. Obviously your feet, like we mentioned last week, your feet are going to take your glove there, and then the glove's going to do the work from there. But the more we can get that lead foot, whether it's our left or our right there, the better off we're going to be in making that throw, setting ourselves up to make that throw. Ball in front, it's really, like Chris said, it's right, left field, making sure you time it correctly, working on the hop that you want. And then I know, Tyler, you and I kind of went back and forth the other day talking about, do we funnel, do we pull the ball up? The different hops are gonna call for different glove works, obviously, and you just have to kind of make that decision on your first read. I would say from a rounding standpoint, knowing your runner, knowing how quick you have to be, like we talked about last week, having that internal clock. If you have to take more of a direct route and then restart your feet on a quicker runner, like a Billy Hamilton type guy, or if you can round it, take your time on getting what hop you want, and then make a good strong throw. Maybe it's a 4-hop or a 4-step versus 2-step transition on a slower guy. So just having that kind of pre-pitch mindset on, hey, if I have this type of ball, and I think as you go and get older and experience, have those different experiences, I think it becomes a lot easier to read quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tyler. I was gonna say, something I thought about too was, when we go to turf fields, that changes too, because the different types of fields are going to dictate if you're more aggressive, if you have time to wait back. And I was just thinking, as Brandon was talking about, how the hop dictates, whether you funnel, whether you work through it, whether you get it right out. And it just made me think of that, because I know, different fields, especially when it comes to turf versus natural, you get different hops, but some players feel more comfortable on the turf field, and while other guys feel more comfortable on the grass field because they just play there all the time. So their directions and angles sometimes could change with the field too. But I don't know why I just thought about that when Brandon said about the how to approach the hop. It made me just think of some turf fields you get are real bouncy, and some are fast as lightning, and it's kind of just changes the way you approach. But
now, is that something you would talk to your guys about going into you were traveling for an away weekend series, and even if you didn't get your practice in on Thursday and whatnot, Friday's the first day. Is that something you talk to the guys when you go through it after maybe in and out, talking about, hey, check out the dirt, how's it playing, and then talk about the type of approach that you might take?
Yeah, for sure. I was at USF the last 5 years, and we had think half of our 4 of the 8 teams in the conference had turf. So when we would go on the road, we had a natural playing surface. So we would either go to the practice football field, usually a couple days before, and then obviously try to get on the field the night before. But if there were cases where we weren't, we would actually cut off, like 5 minutes of BP time and just work on more ground balls, and start, with our infielders getting ground balls and the outfielders, with the outfield coach getting reads off the turf, and just to get them feeling comfortable, because that's as infielders we know that when you go to a different field, it's always a comfort level of, man, this field's really nice, or man, this field, and I'm worried about getting a bad hop, or I'm worried about putting myself in a bad position, if I don't get a good read. So I think it's important, when you go on the road, to be able to have your infielders make sure they're not just taking ground balls to get loose, but more or less of reading hops. And my college coach was Dan McDonald when I was in Louisville my last year, and he used to tell us when we go on the road to count the number of hops you get during BP. And it was more or less, not actually counting, but it was being able to read, where the bad hops are, or where the ball's going to take off or whatnot. So, I learned a lot from him just on becoming a better infielder in terms of actually reading the ball and reading hops and anticipating, because, up to that point, I just kind of always been like, oh, I got pretty good hands and a pretty good arm, and, so that makes me a pretty good infielder. But, when he taught me things like that, it really started to make me feel like I was, a better infielder, because I was able to anticipate that short hop and go get it, or I could see that, the in-between hop coming, so I would try to field it maybe a little bit deeper, as opposed to just, getting that nice, easy long hop that's fun.
Sure. Wade.
Yeah. Hey, Tyler, real quick. Sorry, Wade.
Yep.
One thing Chris said that kind of I kind of wanted to touch on was he's right with the different surfaces. I think that's something in a pregame setting or a BP setting, whatever. Understanding the surface and how the ball is going to move and how that then changes your positioning.
Yeah.
I know as a second baseman, I like to always play in the grass on a well kept field, but maybe that grass is a little bit thicker and I have to play on the dirt now because I know I have to come get balls. Same thing with shortstop. If I know I have a good arm, I can play back. If I have an average arm and grass a little bit thicker, I might have to play in.
100%. Go ahead, Wade.
Yeah, and then just touching with Chris when he was just talking about counting hops, and I like to do that so there's a little drills and a little warm-up stuff too, is not only counting the hops, but then setting the parameter of, all right, you got to field this on the second hop, field this on the third hop, just so they got to be dialed in that much longer. And like you said, anticipating, okay, now I got to really come and get it. If it's going to be on a 2-hop, if it's 3-hop, maybe I got to take a couple drop steps back. So I love just having guys counting the hops too on a consistent basis, just keeps them engaged as much as possible. As for going back to rounding the ball, do I round the ball? Do I not? You guys all touched on a little bit. I think just having the variability and the options to do whatever the play is going to dictate, and having that, what's my first step going to be? Is my first step on time and perfect with a little below average runner? Awesome. Maybe I can round it a little bit more. Like you guys were saying, quicker runner. Maybe I just got to be more direct to the ball, just getting it to the left side and got to get rid of it. But I think it all starts with that prep step, which we went over, and then having that great internal clock. One of the first practices with our infield guys is that I just took the stopwatch and I'm like, all right, stop it at 4-2. I'll say go, and then you tell me stop. All of them stop it at 3-5, 3-2, like a full second early, and they're shocked of how they just don't have that clock whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that turns into a fun little game for 10 minutes. They're all just trying to get it right on there. But having that internal clock and knowing your runner, I think, is huge. Rounding the ball, especially at my level, guys tend to be late to the spot. over rounding and being way too aggressive. So I have to preach a lot being efficient with our feet. And our drills and everything like that might allow for excessive exaggerating rounding and everything, which is good. But then when we put it through the stress test of, okay, now you're on a stopwatch, now you're in a game, not being able to hang in there and make the play. So now it's just, I use simple cue, just being efficient. Take as few steps as we possibly can, and let's just get to the ball and get it out of our glove. And that just starts to click with the guys as they get through it. So I think there's a time and place for both, absolutely. But for my situation, it's a big step up from these guys now playing a college schedule. So the speed is so drastic for them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost overwhelming. So we have to have that up-tempo practice. We have to have that constraints within our practice indie time of where I'm going to set a 4-1. I'm going to set a 4-2 and have to challenge them. Can't just sit back and take ground balls. I have to create that game-like experience and try to get these guys caught up to what their environment's going to be come game time.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. I mean, kind of summarizing what you guys said, I think ability to read hops is everything for approaching the baseball, right? Counting hops was one thing I was actually going to mention if no one brought it up, but you guys nailed it. One thing I discovered at the ABCA was the vector ball. I was just kind of going through all the vendors and everything, and I came upon this ball. Is a vector ball. It kind of shoots different colors when you're little, and you get one of those sticky balls and you throw it and it just changes colors. It's sort of like that. So I started practicing it with some of our guys, and I'd say, all right, catch it on. If it was red, you're catching it on the first hop. If it's blue, you're catching on the second hop. If it's green, you're catching on the third hop. So whatever the first color was that flashed, they had to make that decision and move their feet. So it's kind of like a fun game where I was creating the hop that they had to get, but they also they had to move with their feet to make that happen. Wade, I love that you mentioned making efficient movements. I always say attack the baseball with as little steps that you can possibly take as possible, right? Yeah. And now we always say attack the baseball. Something I mentioned last week, whenever I tell somebody attack the baseball, they always think that's forward and that's running forward. Right. That's not necessarily the case. If you're getting a ball that might be coming at you above the waist, you might have to drop step, right, and create that long hop. So that's why I like to say, attack the baseball, but that means in any direction, right? That could be going left, right, back, forward. But good stuff. So, what I think is going to be the good chunk of our discussion here is double plays, right? So if you guys wouldn't mind going over your double play mechanics, and that's from both sides, the pivot man and feeders, and feel free to hit on both shortstop and second base. So Szink, I'll let you kind of start that one off for us.
Yeah, like you and I talked about, I think this one's going to be more of a discussion one going back and forth. So I'll just kind of throw out just some kind of broad ideas, and then I'll let it kind of naturally funnel from there. But from a feeder standpoint, I think the biggest thing before we even talk about any type of mechanics, anything like that, I think the biggest thing is understanding your distance from the bag. If you can understand that, you're going to quickly know what feed you need, right? What feed you need to use. And then one thing that I know gets a lot more frequent at the upper levels, college, pro, are shifts, right? If we know this guy's going to be a left side of the field guy, we might move that shortstop over a little bit. So the frequency of our feeds might change. So we might have to use more of a tall upright feed versus anticipating that flip feed. But anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to mention. From a shortstop standpoint, from a flip mechanics side, getting the right foot to getting the right foot to the right of the baseball, fielding the ball, normal field position out in front of your left eye. But then I think you'll see a lot of guys naturally, especially at the pro level, will naturally, once they start to make that move with their body and push the ball to second base, they'll start to naturally bring that ball or field that ball in front of their right eye just to get a little bit more oomph on it. And then one thing I always kind of harp on to guys is try and follow that throw, try and follow that flip into the second baseman's glove. Typically, I say use your nose, use your eyes to follow that ball, and then use your hand as well. I think it's really important when you talk to young guys, when you're teaching double play feeds, telling young guys to peel off towards the center field side. I think that kind of gets lost at the major league level because guys are a little bit stronger. But following the throw and then peeling off that center field side, I think ensures a little bit better of a throw, making sure we're staying in our legs all the way through. From a throw standpoint or anything, anything that we might have to throw on the shortstop side, how we usually kind of taught it at Bose was cut your feed by a step. So if we know we can take one step to our right, it's probably going to be a flip. And obviously shifts, and this is why I mentioned it earlier, shifts are going to vary those mechanics. But typically if you're straight up, double play depth, one step to your right to the bag is going to be a flip. When you get beyond that one step, now we're talking plant and throw. Same thing as any throwing mechanics. I'm a big right foot guy, so if we can plant our right foot and work around that right hip, whether it's on an uphill feed, a directional feed, I guess they'll vary a little bit, but try and working over that right foot. One thing I've been doing a lot recently is just kind of watching different guys and how they how they feed from to their right. So Javi Baez is a one that comes to mind that loves to go down to his knee, whereas there's some other guys that they'll get there and they'll just stay over their kneecaps with their throw, or they'll come tall with their throw. So I think there's different variations. From a second base side, same idea. One step to our left is going to be a feed, or one step to our left to the bag is going to be that feed. Same idea, working that ball instead of your left eye, working on your right eye, and you'll see kind of it start to shift to that left eye just a little bit. Strong legs, same idea, working to the center field side after you finish that feed. And then I don't know about you guys, but I think you kind of split it up at second base, split it up into 4 different quadrants. I think if you have to go maybe 2 steps over, then you can pivot to your glove side. And then if you have to go more than that, I think it's a spin throw, really planting that right foot. Same idea. It's going to change your arm angles. As a pivot man, number one thing in my head, and I say this to any guy that I teach double plays to, we got to get to the bag. That's the first thing. Got to get to the bag. I know it's not probably the majority teaching, but I tell guys to plant at the bag, and then we can kind of move from there. I know when I was going through high school and college, we were always taught to chop our feet, and I hated that. I hated chopping my feet. I just felt it was just too many steps, too many things I had to worry about. So if I could just get to the bag and I could make adjustments from there, and then letting my belly button kind of follow the baseball, whether I'm at shortstop or second base, I think that's going to keep our eyes on the baseball. It's going to allow us to then step. For example, if we're a shortstop taking a ball from second base, and we can step to where that ball is coming from to create the lane towards first base. If it's behind the bag, if it's in front, then we just alter our feet. We follow the baseball with our belly, with our eyes. We just alter our feet, go on the infield side of the bag, and create our lane from there. but I think there's so many variations we can talk about. Balls up the middle, balls deep, but I think those are good kind of starting points to get going.
Yeah, appreciate it. Wade, what would you like to add, man?
Yeah, this is a little bit kind of question for all you guys as well. Like I've said before, with me being at the kind of the lower level out of you guys, talking more positioning and stuff like that, and then how that affects, like Brandon was saying, distance from the bag and what type of feeds we're going to be going into. So like for me, distance from the bag, I kind of just teach because we're more straight up double play. I think now that you're looking at, especially in big leagues, with all the shifts, I don't think there is that double play depth anymore. There isn't that generic double play depth. But for us, that's what we got. So that's what we kind of roll with. So we kind of teach, let's just say from shortstop position, anything hit at me or up the middle is always we're going to try to lead into that power feed. As soon as I have to take that one step into the hole, that's when we're going to drop down into kind of more of a toss. Because that just for me helps these younger guys eliminate that. Well, is it a feed or do I go up into a throw? So it just becomes more that unconscious flow. Some guys, it might just flip it. Anything at them or to the right is going to be a throw, and then anything one step up the middle, then I got a power feed. So I'm interested to hear your guys' take on it. With more, you guys say with a right-handed pull guy, and you guys got more, like have to play way more deep in the hole and stuff like that. How that kind of shifts, kind of you guys go about talking about that and just straight up positioning around for stuff like that.
Sure.
Real quick, Wade, I think this is going to be kind of a blanket answer, I think, but I think as guys get up into the upper levels, whether it's college, big time college guys or pro ball, really we'll just call it advanced fielders. I think they have a better feel for their range, right? I think they have a better understanding of I can flip from here versus here. Just a guy that comes to mind, and again, I've been watching a ton of video recently, is Willie Adames. He loves the flip, right? So he'll create flips on balls that some guys you're like, oh shoot, that should have been a one knee throw.
Yeah.
And he just pushes it and creates that flip. I think it's just a comfortability thing. I think it's, hey, I know I can get to this ball and create good momentum and a good feed from here. If it's a flip or if I take more than a couple steps to my right or left, then it's a definite throw, or it's a pivot around this foot or that foot.
Yeah, and like just you saying, studying film and stuff. When I was looking a lot at Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, came across a Swanson to Donaldson back to first with a left-handed bat shift. So it's like, whoa, all these guys are just at different spots now. So that's why I'm like, there is the higher level with those advanced fielders, like you'll call them, is just not. We're not going to have that. Just more straight up double play depth. It gets a little crazy the higher you go.
Wade, I think.
Go ahead, Szink.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned Dansby Swanson. Watching video of him, I've realized that he makes every play look the opposite of routine. I mean, he's going in, picking balls. I mean, I was trying to figure out his double play footwork the other day, and it was like I can't place him into buckets because every ball is it's something different. Even if he's taking 3 balls in the same spot, it might be a different glove work, a different feed or whatever. It's just really funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and it's actually, I was on, getting ready for this talk, I was going through some video, and I came across it might have been the same exact play. Donaldson was almost, right in that 5-6 hole, fielded a ball, and I'm waiting for him to throw it to the second baseman. I see, Swanson come through, and, the thing I thought of was, and Zink's right, like, there's really no mechanics to it. The thought is you just keep the ball moving, right? And that's something that I'll talk to middle infield guys about, right? Is, yeah, we want to secure the baseball, but let's just try to keep the ball moving. Don't let it stop, right? I think when we try to be fast, we end up, kind of causing havoc, right? So be smooth. Be smooth. Just keep the ball moving. Even if you don't think the flip's going to be fast, it's going to be smooth, right? Even if it takes you 2 steps to your right, if you can flip that and you're comfortable with it, do it, right? If it just keeps the ball moving, we have a better chance of turning a double play.
Yeah, and that's what I tell my guys too. Going off that, it's the feeder's job is to just give a good feed. Let the guy on the back end turning it be fast for you. Set him up for success and allow him to be quick on the back end.
Yeah.
So that's where then that just smooths everything over. You get a lot of guys trying to be too quick, and then it's those errant throws. Guy receiving has to make tough adjustments around the bag, and then he's throwing from a goofy arm slot. He's panicking. So let the guy on the back end turning it, let him be quick, set him up for success, and let him be fast.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead, man.
No, not a whole lot to add. I mean, I think Wade and Brandon and you even just kind of hit everything that I believe in or talk with my infielders. And I guess just kind of piggyback off everything. The main thing I just tell them from a feeder standpoint is however you can get the ball to him efficiently and comfortably, whether that's if you feel you can flip from a further distance or you feel that, hey, I need to drop to a knee, or if you feel like you're a guy that doesn't like to drop to the knee and like to throw downhill or uphill from a lower angle, then as long as you get it there efficiently and give the pivot guy a nice feed and an easy chance to complete the double play, that I'm fine with. And on the flip side, I tell the guys turn the double play. When you get to the bag, like Brandon said, I'm the same way. Get to the bag as quickly as possible. I'm not a chop the feet guy because I feel like when guys do that, it kind of throws off the timing sometimes. Or you get a bad feed, then your feet are going one way because you're anticipating, and the ball goes the other way. But ultimately, I tell them to get to the bag and anticipate a bad throw, because then they'll be in a good position to react to wherever the feed is. And if it's a nice feed for them to turn, then it should, as they always use the saying is, a routine double play, so to speak. It'll look that way with a good feed. One thing that I teach that just to throw out there I teach differently coming from second base. When the throw's coming from third, I actually teach the second baseman to start on the other side of the bag with kind of like his heel on the bag, so that this way he's already got a little momentum when he comes across to be able to clear a lane and throw to first. And I actually learned that from Paul Molitor when I was with the Twins. It's different. High school, they got to slide right in the bag. College, you can get away with some stuff, but typically you're supposed to slide around the bag. That in pro ball, you're fair game. And so one thing he taught me was to, especially at second base, and me being the giant 5'3" that I am, guys coming to second base, they're just barreling down thinking I'm going to light this guy up. So I always took that to mind, especially from third base, because I didn't have the bag to really protect me, so to speak, and especially on a throw maybe a little bit up the line. I wanted to try to get as much clear lane as I could, and so I liked starting on the other side of the bag. It just felt more comfortable, and it didn't feel like the guy was on top of me as I was turning it from third, because that's how most guys feel a lot of times. When they're turning it from third, they're a little bit cautious of that runner coming in, and that throw goes up the line a little bit, and they get the alligator arm, and it's more like this, instead of stepping to the ball and creating that lane. So that was just one thing that that I just wanted to add. But everything that you guys said, from the shifts to the comfort to the range being a factor, is just that we could go on for days talking about the different plays and the different flips, feeds, and when to pivot. Like Brandon was saying on the ball, to a little bit left second base, when to spin and throw versus when to turn your right foot and open up the hips. It's just it's a fun topic, but there's so many different variations that everybody's different in terms of what they like or what they can and can't do. So
yeah,
I enjoy
real
listening.
quick, one of the last things I kind of want to talk about, and it just kind of came to mind, is that pivot, specifically from second base, right? Do you guys teach working through the base? Do you teach working off the back of it? If you guys didn't mind going into a little detail on that. Now, Wade, I can let you start with that one.
Yeah, and I was actually kind of going to ask Chris after what he was just talking about, coming all the way across. Once again, my level arms aren't there and everything like that, so I've been kind of talking, and then Chris, what are your thoughts on it? So as second baseman, I kind of just preach the more that plays in the hole, especially shortstop, and then obviously in the third, the more we have to come across the bag to help cut down that distance as much as possible. Because at our level, that margin for turning to on the back end then on that side gets less and less.
Yeah.
So coming across the bag with every ball hit deeper in the hole, we're going to come across the bag a little bit more and cheat a little bit more on that inside part of the bag. So that's kind of what our thought process here is on pivoting from second.
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree. The further the shortstop, especially goes away from the bag, like you're saying, the lower percentage throw it is to turn double play. So kind of the same thing you said. I just teach my guys, especially on the third base side, be on the other side of the bag so that you can create a throwing lane, but also you're able to get to that ball, especially at the line, because that's what you typically see on the third baseman when they have the throwing errors for double plays is the guy's coming across a little bit late, or he's taught to come across when the third baseman releases the ball, and now it's going at the runner and he's coming straight towards the third baseman, but the throw's over here.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that alligator arm and we're afraid to make contact or go in, so we kind of either don't get the double play turned or end up with the ball in right field. So I just always like to teach the guys, hey, you can't get two unless you get one. So in that situation, I want you starting on the other side of the bag. So this way you do feel comfortable if the throw takes you up the line, because you've created that throwing lane, that the guy sliding in, he shouldn't be anywhere near you. And if he is, he's probably going to get banged out because he's way outside the baseline.
Yeah. Zane?
Yeah, I think it's actually a lot like how we teach first baseman. I think the direction of the baseball kind of dictates where your feet go and the speed at which the ball is hit in some cases too. Real quick, Chris, I did want to maybe ask you, and this is one of the things I brought up to Tyler a few days ago. So we just say first and second, right? We got a runner going second to third on a ground ball. One thing I started to talk to players about was read where your third baseman is. Typically, and this is just past experiences, knowing where guys were playing. Typically, guys are around the running lane, right? They're not usually in front. They're not usually behind, depending on if we have a bunt play on. But you'll have guys kind of creep in front of the running lane. And how I started talking to second baseman was, especially at the youth and high school levels, let's come across in a way, and almost like a first baseman would, like I just mentioned, like let's come across in a way to where we can create that lane to the first baseman on the infield side. And then if we're behind the bag, if we're playing third baseman deep, maybe we've got a game that's not as close and we know guys are going to be swinging, then start to create that lane, whether it's on the outfield side or we're stepping more towards the 5-6 hole that way to create that lane on the infield side. But I agree with you guys. I think as the ball starts to move deeper towards the outfield, I think our footwork changes a little bit. I think we have to start to create a spot to where we can take that left foot to the baseball and then create a lane, whether it's a ball that's closer to us up the middle and we can stay on the second base side and create a lane on that outfield side, or it's a ball, like I said, more to the 5-6 hole and we have to create that lane on the third base side.
Sweet. Awesome, guys. Well, heck, we went a lot longer than I was expecting, and we probably didn't even get through half the stuff that I wanted to get through. But I appreciate you guys joining here. Awesome. I took something away from everything that you guys said, from each of you, I should say. Might have to do this again and keep diving into some middle infield stuff, because heck, we didn't even get to cuts and relays or even tag plays around the base. So I appreciate you guys taking your time. Like I said, I'll try to get it posted tonight. Feel free, if you want a copy, reach out to me. I'll shoot it over to you guys. But thanks again. Really appreciate it. Stay safe, and I hope you guys all the best here while we're going through these crazy times.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Nice meeting you guys. Best of luck. If you need anything, please feel reach out.
Awesome. Thanks.